Welcome to the second tutorial for Rebel and Escape Motions. Today we're going to be painting an aerial view from one of the northern beaches in Sydney, and we will challenge ourselves this time to paint it without color sampling from the reference window, and this way have your artistic choices to be shown in the painting. So I'm starting as the last time with the sketch, using my photo reference there up in a reference window just to guide me. Not trying to copy it, but rather just to paint something that I feel could work well for the composition. I'm trying to think about thick atmosphere this time. Trying to get something that will create the nice stacking of the atmosphere, so we can see several planes of the landscape sort of receding to the rear sections of the painting, where we'll clearly be able to see value differences as well as the impact of the particles of the atmosphere sort of catching the light at this time of day and creating this nice separation between planes, especially on the right hand side. You can see the sun is just outside of the frame of the right hand side, and will create the separation between elements once they come closer to us, to the viewer. So just creating the area of the water, area of the landmass, stacking of the separate planes of these mountains receding back. Just looking at the reference, just trying to pick a color from my color wheel on the right. So just trying different things, see what could work for us, and placing my first brush strokes. And as in the previous exercise, I'm also using the blender tool, the smudger, which is the N key, and B for brush, just jumping between the two and trying to create that sort of soft gradient in the sky, as well as those cirrus clouds in the late afternoon, sort of coming across the sky. The challenge with this sky will be to have that sort of brighter edges to the clouds, showing us that there is a light illuminating the sections of the clouds. And now I'm going in and starting to show the furthest away landmass, and then just going darker in values when coming closer to the camera. Just sort of working this way and trying to find the right color. I just realized I was painting in the wrong layer, so just separating down from the sky and trying to create those elements of the landscape. So you're going darker in value, going darker again for the mid plane, and just already trying to think also about the scale of vegetation is important here. That will give us a very important clue of how far we are. So those kind of perspective cues are something to keep in mind. So I'm already showing in the areas which are closer to us that there is some vegetation, and you can see just carefully choosing my brush size to show that on the edge of those planes of the landmass, just showing the right scale of this tree sort of sticking out of that shape and giving us the idea of how far we are. Right now I'm trying to find a way to show that atmosphere is coming from the right and pushing the values up of that area. So just trying to find the right value, looking up at my reference. Also want to have that warmth of the light traveling from the right to left and sort of terminating halfway through the painting. So that's also something I will try to do, to mix in warmer colors there on the right hand side. Trying to keep my brush on the variety, so activated the noise per stroke. I can also take advantage of the of this brush changing slightly value and color, so that will give me that variety in paint and different tones and hues and values appearing throughout the painting, giving that extra level of complexity to the paint. And I'm trying to already here think of that row of these pine trees being against the light, so making sure the value is darker and shaping up those guys using the bristle brush, and also making sure that there is not too much load of paint, so I'm getting that nice broken up edges, giving the right look to those trees. We don't want those edges to be too solid and too straight. We want to break it up a little bit to so the character of the tree comes across, and we can see that these are pine trees rather than broadleaf trees. Already starting to think about the light. The impression I will try to create here is that one section of the painting will receive that warmth of the sun, and so we'll be looking at going into the warmer tones of the paint, and yeah, just placing the trees against the light, against the atmosphere. Now trying to think of the value for the sand. We have that island of the sand, with sand being a little bit darker and wet when it comes to the contact with water. So thinking about that already as well, and slowly starting to establish the water, which is reflecting the sky here. So once I have the selection of colors already on my canvas, now I can just sample from here. And that's the key always with painting with water. You want to make sure that you're reflecting similar color which is above. The reflection tend to be slightly darker, so also making sure that those values represent that feature of water here. And just looking at my sample again and seeing that because of the brighter sections of the sky just above the horizon, we will have also brighter section of the water just there when it's starting to touch the edge of the road, that sort of retaining wall made of stones. This is where the water seems like it's the brightest, so having that value there going up to almost white. And extending the water there to the line where the water is touching the bottom of that hill, and then now just establishing the foreground and the vegetation here. In this area I'll try to have also a good variety of paint, variety of hues and tones. In this kind of clusters of vegetation, that's going to be important to make it look interesting and preserve the different variety of species of vegetation, and also importantly how the light is going to illuminate the sort of edges. So already starting to show that here, where the upper sections of the clusters of the shrubs and individual plants are catching the light from the sun there, coming from the right hand side and sort of touching the top sections. And then building sort of shaded area here. So I'm painting the darker sections with the bristle and then blending them so I can create that sort of ambient occlusion, deeper darker tones in the sort of deeper vegetation sections where the shrubs are in shade and not receiving as much light. And looking back and forth into my reference and also building the vegetation clusters here around the road. So sampling from different spots of my painting, since already the paint is starting to mix nicely on my canvas, I'm getting all these very interesting and useful colors already. So I'm sampling those and using them to get similar value and variety within similar distance from the camera. That's a very important thing here, to be able to have the mid values in the middle section of your painting and the darker, sort of deeper blacks here in the foreground, and starting to show a little bit of a sand here on the edge of the water, filling up these little gaps. And also looking at the sand here, so many different hues and values there in that sand, so trying to already mix in some of the color there, showing a bit of a sort of smaller scale shrubs along the edge of the water, and just jumping between different sections of painting and starting to detail sections of it, just making sure I also have that darker sections and maybe some of the vegetation sticking out of the closer to the camera section here, to give us this interesting details on the edges. I'm trying to fit this recording into 20 minutes, so it is quite ambitious for that type of painting. So unfortunately I will have to speed it up. But if you would like to follow along and perhaps try to paint the similar landscape, then I would encourage you to slow the playback or maybe pause in certain sections and paint along. So here the speed is slightly higher now, and so I'm just jumping to the grayscale and realizing that perhaps the value of that sand in the middle was a little bit too high, so just made a selection and reduced the brightness there. Since we have access to these tools, why not take advantage of them? I know in a real painting and in real life you wouldn't be able to do it, but we are painting digitally, so sometimes it happens that the value is not quite right when you place it down first. So I find it very useful to be able to adjust it. Now, getting that warmth that we spoke about before of the sun, sort of traveling from right to left in that horizon bit, just trying to get that feeling of the sunlight sort of penetrating through the landscape, and now seeing how the clouds are illuminated, so having this sort of brighter edges of the clouds and darker central bits showing us how the clouds are illuminated. And now just going in gradually, bit by bit, and detailing sections of the painting. I felt like it would be nice to show some of the trunks and break up some of the silhouettes of this tree so they're not all the same, and going in and doing some darker sections and illuminating again the higher bits, showing that the light is catching those edges. And the reflections, trying to blend them and show that they're sort of disappearing while being broken up by the rippling of the water, and trying to show also some of these stones in that retaining wall along the water, and just gradually building details. I thought it would be nice to have that sort of sharper bit of water sort of cutting across that darker section there in the rear. Thought it would be nice also to have a couple of silhouettes there on the left hand side too, and just making sure my separation is clearly indicated, so the planes of receding land mass is clearly visible. Just looking again at that sand, and I'm thinking could add some details there. Reflection in the rear of these buildings there on that little peninsula. So that's the section where I want to have the clear read of the light touching that bit. And perhaps we could treat that as a sort of focal point of this painting, where the light is hitting these little palm trees there. So showing a bit of a light on them, a bit of a rim light, just detailing back and forth. Here I thought it would be nice to also show some of the light catching the trees, and again going back and forth in different areas, detailing, making sure I have the small, medium and large details of my painting. Just improving some of these reflections and making sure the bridge silhouette is clearly visible against the brighter values of the water. Just blending some of these reflections, and I thought perhaps I can try to show some of the rippling of the water here in the foreground, where there is a little bit more detail visible, and so just trying to paint that in, and just going into this wet sand there, and also making sure it's really nice and sharp against the bright water reflection. Just looking and thinking, what else can we do to get the good frequency of details, and trying to detail that sky again, using some soft brush just to show a bit more thicker haze, thicker atmosphere on the right hand side. Detailing certain areas. There's this car park on the right, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to show a bit of a sharper speck elements, sharper shining bits, maybe some cars on the road. Just looking at the color as well, and then perhaps swing it slightly more to sort of magenta, purple, sort of afternoon sky, and then detailing a bit more of the foreground. Just keep looking on my reference as well, and I'm thinking maybe I can introduce some foreground elements on the left. So we'll attempt to make this one look good, and in the same time don't go over crazy with the details. So now we're getting a bit more brighter reflection on the further edge of the water. Have that nice warmth there in the rear. Some details of the architecture sort of showing up. Road continuing, a bit more blue in the shadows. Just making sure that blue is also. And then flipped in, and I'm trying to paint the foreground guy now and see if I can be happy with the result of that. I don't want to be too precise, but at the same time I want the right feeling of that tree cutting in here. So just showing some highlights, shadows, bit of branches. Yeah, and I'm trying to keep it loose. Like I said, don't go too crazy with the details. So just going back and forth, what we can do to improve. Just blending some of the water. In this last section of the painting, of the recording, just slowing down again, just to show what else I'm doing at the final stages. Just adding a person for scale is always a good idea, so just doing that as a final touch. Thanks so much for joining me for this tutorial. I really hope that you were able to learn something, and that we can do more of those in the future.